Recording's good to go. All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome. We'll get started in just a second. I'm going to give it maybe about 20 more seconds to allow folks to join us. We'd love to hear your name, where you're from, what type of business you're in, your level with how comfortable you are with AI. If you'd like to throw that in the chat, that'd be awesome to get to know the folks. We will get started, and I would say in about 10 seconds. I want to make sure we have enough time for other content, Q&A. So I'll be respectful of everyone's time. Okay, looks like we got quite a few. All right, so I'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, folks. Welcome to our AI Power Hour webinar, brought to you by the Sacramento Small Business Development Center. My name is Joseph Cordova. I'm the program manager with the Sacramento Valley SBDC, and I'll be your host for this session. Just some quick housekeeping notes. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to use that Q&A. Feel free to use the chat. Highly recommend that Q&A so we can kind of get an ordered kind of feel of the questions. But the chat will be making sure to monitor as well if you feel more comfortable in the chat. This webinar is being recorded. You will receive a copy of the recording and a follow-up email, as along with any handouts and whatnot you'll see throughout the presentation. So with that, I do want to give a quick overview of the SBDC. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And this is for the new signups that we have this week. So let me go ahead and get started. Okay. All right, welcome again, folks. This is a disclaimer. I'll give you a second to read over this, but you will receive this in the follow-up email, so no worries there. All right, so the SBDC, the Northern California SBDC, what is the SBDC? We're a national program with over 1,000 locations. We help stimulate economic growth through business development. Proud resource partner of the SBA, serving 36 counties with 17 centers in the Northern California Regional Network. The Sacramento Valley SBDC, we serve Sacramento, Yolo, Sutter, and Yuba counties. So what do? We provide professional, no cost, no obligation mentorship, training, base networking opportunities, any kind of resource you can think of to get your business to that next level. SBDC advisors and the teams are here to help. So we can help with writing a business plan, business structure, access to capital, financial management, bookkeeping, HR, social media, procurement, and AI for small business. So extremely easy to sign up. Visit the website, sacramentovalley.sbdc.org. Click that sign up button. It's a quick 5-minute application online. And at the very last step of that application, you schedule an intake phone call with our intake specialist team. Once that phone call is complete, we can get the ball rolling on getting you connected to one of our expert advisors. Highly recommend visiting our website and signing up for the newsletter so you can receive updates on upcoming trainings, any type of resources we feel is important to the business community. We'll make sure we throw that in the newsletter. So we do have a couple of upcoming training events I do want to highlight. These are both in person. So for our Sacramento folks, September 25th, we have a branding basics, unlocking your most valuable assets. So basically 101 on branding for your business. September 30th, boost your sales for the upcoming holiday season. Just strategies and whatnot that's going to help you through the season. All right, and these are both at no cost, and you will see more information on these events on our website, and I'll send some information in our follow-up email as well. So this is our basic contact, Director C. Lee Alex, email info@sacramentovalley.sbdc.org. Phone number is 916-655-2100, and the website, sacramentovalley.sbdc.org. And with that, I want to welcome our host, the NorCal SBDC Regional Advisor, Kathy Ballard. All right, Kathy, go ahead and take it away.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the AI Power Hour by Sacramento Valley SBDC. So yes, I'm Kathy Ballard. I'm a nationally certified AI expert and also a marketer focused on strategy through to results. This workshop, so this is 1 hour today, so we'll leave about 10 minutes at the end, maybe for Q&A. That said, please go ahead. If you have a question that needs to be clarified, please put it in the chat, and Joseph will be watching for those as well. It's also nice to see, thank you for those of you who are putting your introductions into chat. It's really great to see who's in the room, and love hearing that. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to, I gave you a small mission for those of you who were here last week, for those of you who choose to accept it. There will typically be a mission after each session, usually pretty short, but the last one was pretty long. So there were 2 parts. For those of you who missed it, part 1 was exploring where AI can best help you so that you can be strategic in your use of AI. And 2, exploring 2 new to you tools, AI tools, and 2 AI tools on your phone if you haven't already done that. So just trying to get you to start expanding your AI horizons. So if you did do this for week 1, please put a note and comment in chat. Would love to hear a little bit about it. How did you do? Was there anything kind of interesting that you learned from it? So today, though, we are covering prompting, and prompting is simply what you put into AI to get your best response. So I'm going to get you started right now and show you, I'm working on one screen today, so this is going to be very different for me. But I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see something. You're going to have a couple of handouts from today. Here's the first one. This is Joseph will send it to you afterwards, but this is really the main thing that we're going to be covering today, is some rules for prompting. So I created this for you, so you have this in front of you and can be thinking about how, are you following these rules? And again, I should say guidelines, right? Because it's not like there's hard and fast rules. But this will help guide you through how are you going to prompt better. And we're going to walk through, especially this middle part with specific examples. As you know, that's what I do different here is this is not meant to be a PowerPoint presentation. This is not meant to be me talking at you. This is meant to be showing you actually how to do it so that you can start doing it as well. And if you have if you're able to do some things, have AI up while we're talking, please feel free to. The best way to learn is to be doing it. Okay, so first of all, before you start, some considerations. And this is to think of AI as an assistant. What is your assistant? Use it to enhance, not replace your efforts. So in other words, you still it still needs a human to make sure that things are working for you. And Joseph, tell me if there's any problem with seeing my screen. Just want to make sure everything looks okay.
I can see your screen, but I'm not getting the very end of, so I see like the bullet
Okay,
points 1, 2, 3, 4, but not the very end of the sentences.
there we go. All right, can you see that now?
Let's see. Oh, there we go. Yep, looks good.
Perfect. So some other thoughts is, so that it needs to have a human in it. And I want you to think about this. AI search. So if you're putting something on the internet, for example, it doesn't like AI generated material. So this means that it excludes it. And like, for example, Reddit will particularly do this. It will not include anything. It's really trying to block anything that's AI generated because there's this mass explosion of AI generated content. And what's really needed is people in there. So your goal is to use AI, but not to create content that sounds AI generated. Another couple of things to think about is that, think of if it helps you put a photo of somebody there. What does your assistant look like? And that should also tell you that the kind of language you're using is always natural language. How would I talk to somebody who's there? Somebody just showed up for the first day on the job. I have to train them. I have to let them know what I want. I'm going to use regular language, straightforward language. I'm also going to be nice. That sounds funny, but talking collaboratively, AI is trained on all of the data, and that means it knows when there's anger, when there's other negativity, and it might respond in kind. So your best way of getting what you want is talking collaboratively, being, and teaching it. So with that, let's go on to the second point, which is to train your AI. And by that, what I mean is that, so I'm talking about your business, your audience, your style, to guide AI's results, but I especially mean customizing AI in advance here. Again, this is before you start. So prepping your AI in advance mostly requires using typically paid versions because it's putting custom instructions in and things like that. We are going to cover this more next week. Just keep that in mind. Number 3, start a prompt library. And this is saving prompts, effective prompts for reuse in whatever it is that you're creating. Even if you have a paid version, the memory typically resets when you start a new chat. Or even if it's persistent memory. And again, I'm not going to go into all the explanations about this. Just know that is also still limited. Older information becomes less important. So having a prompt library, things that you have put in and got the results you really want, is a great place where you can keep track of what works. It keeps you time from trying to hunt down that prompt in the future. And it isn't particularly stuck to one AI place. Today I'm going to demo using, I think, 3 options, so being able sometimes to jump between things. You might find different reasons to use different AI tools. Mostly one does it all, but there are some things that sometimes, and keep that in mind as I talk about the last thing. Anyways, get to that. Number 4 is leverage paid tools wisely. And what I mean by that is paid tools, like I just said, there's memory impact. They often provide better reasoning, longer outputs. They can have features like file uploads or web browsing. And that's what I'm going to talk about towards the end of this session. But web browsing, so that it can look at a website, for example. And again, next week, like I said, we're going to cover advanced ChatGPT, which covers mostly the paid features. And I know it's easy to say you don't want to pay. Who of us wants to pay? But I just want to point out 2 things. One, you are paying such a small cost for an assistant. Just if this was a person, the amount you'd be paying is a joke. And 2, if it will greatly improve your capabilities versus just using only free versions. Again, we'll cover that more next week. And some of the things I'm going to demo, not all my tools are paid. I have 2 paid tools, and then I use other free versions. So usually 1 paid version is enough. Number 5, use AI for improvements. And what I mean here is, what do you have already? Do you have existing drafts? What about your old material? What if you do have old blogs, brochures, other things? You might already have material that you can start improving with AI. It doesn't mean to get rid of what you have. It means that, now is a great time to start taking some of the things you have and updating them. And the other 0.6 is just never input private or confidential info into AI. And a good way, like a good rule of thumb about that would be a simple rule. If you wouldn't post it on a public forum, don't paste it in AI. Don't say, looking at this tax return, if you wouldn't put it in a forum, don't upload it. So there are ways of dealing with it, but anyways. Okay, so let's jump into some practice sessions. As I mentioned, what's different about this workshop is that we just get into doing things. So what I want to do is start giving you some examples. And let me stop sharing my screen. I'm going to reshare it a little different way. There we go, full screen there. Because you're going to have to see what I'm doing with my AI too. So after today, we're just going to send out not only this page over here, the AI Power Hour prompting guide to you, but he's also going to send out this, which are some examples. So I have examples for each of these 12 best practices. Actually, I think one doesn't, but so they're examples that will help you understand what am I talking about when I'm saying there's some best practices into this. So I'm going to shrink this down, and we're going to just start jumping into our AI tools directly. So the first thing, and this is exactly, again, this is the what you're going to receive. Here's the good prompts. You're also going to receive. You're going to receive this, which is going to give you examples. But I'm going to go back to my document. They're also over here. It's just for me, this is a little bit of a different form so that I can easily cut and paste them. So the first point is to be specific and clear. Include enough details. The more details, generally, the better. I'm not talking about adding, 10 pages of information about what you want as an output. I'm talking about just providing a good example. So I would never put in something like this, write an email about a wine tasting event this Thursday. And I'm assuming it knows who I am at this point, right? I'm regularly using AI. It probably knows them. So because it doesn't, I just did a quick example here. And I'm working on a new winery, Cachet Wines in Auburn. Right, a friendly 400 to 500. No, I should put Auburn. Write a friendly 400 to 500 word email inviting our customers to our free open house wine tasting event on September 21st at 6 p.m. with live jazz music. The event is limited to 75 people. Keep it under. Oh, there we go. Don't need that because I've already got that written above. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. And you're going to see what it's going to give me is my subject line, my email body, and I'm still going to go through and I'm going to read it and I am going to edit it. One little funky thing I notice is that sometimes I have funny little things. So you noticed it got this just fine, but sometimes if you give it a lot of things with dates, it can mess up the dates. So you have to be really careful about that. Because I do write some of our emails, some emails in it, and I notice sometimes that the dates and times are especially the main thing I need to watch out for. So if it doesn't know your business, like I just gave it a fake name here, you would need to provide this. Another way of doing this might be see my website. So I could also say, let's say I had a website, I could say read into my website, cachetwines.com. This is just a fictitious one, so this doesn't exist. I don't think it, so it did anyways. And blah, blah, blah. So I could tell it that. However, as I'm going to cover at the end, sometimes it can do this and sometimes it can't. So this gets to be a little bit challenging. Anyways, the point is that you need to either give it information. Sometimes you can do it online, and we'll cover that at the end. And if you can't, at least uploading documents. So maybe I have a page about this event, and I could have uploaded it and told from that to write the email. If I have my brand guidelines, any kind of things like that, I would upload. Okay, so the second point that I want to cover here, there we go, is to give context and background. And that means share more general, information about what the point is, so here you're going to be specific and clear. Here it's about, what is the context? So I'm going to give you another example here. So think about this, and I'm going to jump over to a different search. We're going to jump over to Gemini this time. Google Gemini. So I have a new business, and again, I just made one up. Napa Bakes, a family-owned business in Sacramento that specializes in gluten-free desserts. Our audience, so I'm going to give it some idea of who's it talking to, is young families who live within a 5-mile radius. Right, and friendly Instagram caption announcing our new pumpkin spice cupcake, highlighting that it's only available through December. So again, you're trying to think about what does it need, and this is where, again, I would provide more information about my business, et cetera, but this is a fictitious business. So I'm just going to give it this, and we're going to see what comes up. And I'm just going to leave these here. Oh, that's nice. Oh, there we go. My hashtags there, everything that I might need. And we're going to come back to a couple of these. So let's just keep moving on. Number 3, and this one's somewhat more optional. It depends if there's any uncertainty. Let me move to this one. If there's any uncertainty, you should tell it who it is. So for example, if you want it to act as a high school teacher talking to a bunch of students, you would clarify that, right? That might be a very different tone versus you're a social media expert. And I could say world renowned, whatever, you know, it sets the tone for how it's going to talk to me. Create 5 Instagram captions for a family-owned Italian restaurant promoting a new pasta dish, lemon orzo. And let's see what this comes up with. Okay, so number 3, again, you don't always have to do this. But if it makes sense, if you think it's going to benefit, you can add this little detail of who it should be. Okay, on to number 4. Specify the format and the tone. You know, how do you want it to talk? So I created, for example, I'm going to pull up another one. Let's go over to here. I'm going to go back over to ChatGPT. If you notice, I'm just jumping between 3. I'm doing ChatGPT, I'm doing Google Gemini, and I'm doing Microsoft Copilot. So, you know, you can bounce between them. If I was really working this, I wouldn't do this because I'd want everything to be in one place. But right now, I'm just showing you, you know, all these tools are going to do all the same stuff. So I have an attached document. Let me see if I can pull this up. Okay, demo files. So I've got a blog here. I think this is the one, attached article. I believe this is the one I want. Okay, so I'm attaching it. And I'm just going to tell it for the attached article. And you don't need to have it highlighted like I do. That's just for my benefit to remind myself I needed to upload it. For the attached article, create a list of 6 LinkedIn post ideas written in a professional but approachable tone. So I'm giving it the tone, you know, just telling it really quickly what I want. I didn't go into a whole lot of details because it already has the article. So I didn't need to tell it what it's talking about because it's going to look at the article. So let's go ahead and put this in. So one of your best shortcuts is when you do have documents to upload because it will be able to extract all of that information. So it's going to be consistent. And this was the article, The Transformative Power of Daily Yoga, that I created for this. And then it's going to create some really short, right, 6 LinkedIn post ideas from this multi-page article. Okay, and some really interesting things. And it's a nice range of different options. Emotional side of yoga. Again, the title of the article I put in here was The Transformative Power of Daily Yoga. And it comes up with all these great things. Community that keeps you showing up, the business case for daily yoga. Interesting stuff. So some really good ideas that might come out of it here. So, but if you notice, I'm always specifying what I want. So even with this, I could now start going back and telling it, you know, to how I might want it even more and start drilling down. And I'll give you some more examples of that in a moment too. Okay. Next point is to work in steps, not all at once. And sometimes it's really important to break down tasks, you know, and the example I'm saying is titles, outline, draft. You know, if you've got a big project, if you have a book to write, you're not going to just tell it to write the book for you, for example. So in this example, I'm creating a yoga program as part of a summer camp. So I want to create the yoga workshops, write up yoga descriptions, come up with a schedule for 2 weeks, you know, and more, and keep doing things, create the ads for it, et cetera, et cetera. So this would be a perfect example where I would start breaking it down. This is how how I would do that. So I made this into 3 first steps. The first one is going to be, let's go over, we're going to jump over to Gemini again. Brainstorm 10 possible names for a new yoga class for teens. Again, context, who are new to yoga and will be learning yoga in a summer camp. Again, normally I would give it also business information, et cetera, et cetera. Normally, if I've been working with AI, it knows which business I'm already talking about. So it's going to come up with some different things. Interesting. Stretch and soar, unwind on the line, mindful movers, yogi project, different stuff. And let's say I just took step 3 and said, I like number 3. Can you now give me some ideas for a tagline in under 6 words, right? Because now I'm starting to think, okay, I've got to be creating my flyer. Okay, so there's some nice stuff. Breathe, stretch, relax, chill out with yoga. So it's going to give me some ideas. And if I don't like these, I can come back and say, can you give me some more? Okay. So let's say I like this one. And I'm just going to copy and paste it. I can also say number 3, whatever, but I'm just going to copy and paste that. So I like this one. Peace, poses, and purpose. Nice alliteration there. And I'm going to say this will be a 40-minute class. Can you suggest a paragraph to describe this class, making it appealing to teens? Now, of course, I'm not going to just take this, as it writes it, but it might give me a good idea to say, does this fit? This can be a really great place to start. So that's how I would break it down, right? 1, 2, 3, keep moving. But so, the goal is to give it enough details, but you don't want to have it do all of this different stuff at once. Always break down tasks so you can make sure you're happy before you move to the next step. Okay, let's move on to number 6, which is to treat AI like a collaborator. Ask it to ask you clarifying questions before generating content. So again, I'm going to go over to another. Let me just go over to this. And this time, so I'm in Microsoft Copilot. By the way, I don't know if I showed anybody this last time, but I'm in Microsoft Edge. And one thing I like about this is I can just open it up over here too. So I can use this on the side of whatever I'm doing. So I can actually have Gemini here and I can have Copilot side by side, which is really convenient when I want to do more than, I want to try out more than one AI tool. So I need to upload this because this was using a blog post. So upload. And there's my social media post. I'm going to I think this was what it was. Okay. I have a social media post. That wasn't for this because that was something else. That social media post. So I'm just going to change this. I'm going to create, why don't I put this over here? I'm going to create this for my yoga studio using this blog post. Oh, I think it's the same one I used before. That's why. I'm not sure where I put that. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to upload it over here again. That's that same transformative power of daily yoga. So I upload it there. Using this blog post, yes. But I'm not sure. So this is what I'm doing here, which is to have it ask me clarifying questions before generating content. So I'm going to upload this blog post, but I'm not sure what details. So I want to have a social media. So I'm telling it, before you write anything, ask me 5 clarifying questions to better understand my business and my audience. And whoops, I'm hitting that button. There we go. And so now it's going to ask me. Another thing I can do, can you just ask me one question at a time? Because I don't like when I get a whole bunch of questions thrown at me. I find that really annoying. So it's going to ask the same questions. But if I wanted to do this, it's now going to slow down. So I don't have this big, massive thing. I can think through one question before I go to the next. So are you hoping to reach beginners who are curious about? So it's helping me think a little bit more, hone in on the audience I'm reaching. I must have written something in Calistogas because that's what it's saying. Tell me a bit about who you want to speak to most. So I would say, let's just argue that I'm going to do beginners who are curious about yoga. And I'm going to put this in. And now it's going to lead me to the second question. We don't need to go through each of the 5 questions, but you have control over it. And this is a great way of doing things, is instead of giving it all the information, ask it to interview you, ask it to ask you the right questions. All right, let's go on to another example, another kind of rule of thumb, which is, okay, to use examples. So you can pay, let's say you want to pay something, let's say you have something you really like. You can paste a past post or tag along, as long as it's something you really enjoy. Then you can tell AI to match the style. Actually, I'm going to use the same one, and I'm going to go ahead and create, and just, this is the same for all of the AI tools. I'm going to start a new chat if I don't want it to follow along with the exact same thing. I can just go ahead and, or I can even create it. Yeah, there we go. Let's just create that there. And I'm in a new chat. So it's helping it not remember what I did before, right? That's gone. And I want that to be gone because these are just examples. So, so in this, I am going to say, whoops, that's the wrong thing. I am going to upload a blog, or what was it? A social media post. And if you see with the social media post, this is about Ryanair, which is something that people are very adamant about. It's more of a British thing, but they're known for having a really strong social media following. So I'm going to tell it, though, that to match a style, but write about our new fall skincare package. I would add additional details. I don't really have all the stuff here. So match the style, but write about our new fall. I'm just going to leave it like that. Like I said, usually I would have all of the kind of information. Huh, interesting. See this kind of really funny little thing? So if you look at the document that I gave it, and this is Ryanair. Look how, what it's doing. It's still trying to create that kind of sassiness, right? That is going to work. So it could be something that you've written in the past that you really like, you're really proud of, and you're like, yes, this is the right voice. So I'm going to use examples. If you have another business that you like to follow, like in this case, Ryanair, it's nothing to do with skincare, but I used it because I know that they have this great sassy voice, and I put it to a skincare line. All right, it's rule number 8. We're doing well. We're getting through all of these. We want to refine and revise until it's right. So you don't just settle for a draft. Let's go back to number 2 here, where we have our pumpkin spice cupcakes. And I say I want this to be, I'm going to use Ryanair again. I want this to be more fun, something that Ryanair would write if they had a bakery. Can you change this? And let's see what they come up with. Okay, again, we got a little bit more sassy. Our gluten-free pumpkin spice cupcakes are here. Yep, you read that right. They're actually good. No, they're great. Stop asking questions and start eating. Get that nice kind of fun snappiness. And then I can still keep going back. Can you make this even shorter? Because maybe it's a little bit long, and let's see what it comes up with. There we go. Now we've got shorter. So this is the way to start thinking of your prompting. This is a conversation. Again, if it helps you put a picture of somebody there as your assistant, to start thinking, okay, yes, I'm having a conversation. This is my assistant. I've got to train them. I've got to teach them what's right. And we're having a conversation. Okay, I'm going to go back to another example here. Let's see, we did number 4. And for this one, I took and I uploaded an article, and I asked for 6 LinkedIn post ideas. So I'm just going to say this time that I liked one of the post ideas. So I read through these, and I like this one on community that keeps you showing up. That's number 5. So I'm going to tell it, I like this post idea. Number 5. I can get in there. Can you write this in 3 different ways? So I'm going to ask for multiple, examples. A lot of times, sometimes I'll just say, give me multiple examples or give me options. So there are 3 different rewrites. So we got there, storytelling angle, leadership, teamwork parallel. So now I've got options and I can start seeing what is going to work for me best. What's going to work for my brand. I'm going to go back to another one and do the same thing again. So in this example, I'm going to go back to my number 1. If you remember for number 1, let's see. I created the email body for Cachet Wines. Okay, there we are. Did it give me? Yeah, it gave me some subject line options. I'm going to say this time I'm going to create a post out of this too. Suggest, 5 headlines in different tones, and let's see what I get. So again, I'm going to ask for options, warm and welcoming, playful and social. So what's going to work for me? Giving me, so whenever you're not sure, ask for those kind of options. Okay, number 6, and I didn't create, number 10. I didn't create a specific example for this, but you can ask AI to explain your reasoning briefly before the final answer. Here's one interesting thing I can do though. Let's go back into, I'm in Copilot, Microsoft Copilot now. And this time again, and all I did was click my fresh chat. And I'm teaching a workshop about prompting. Can you write an example to show the principle? Explain your reasoning to show how someone would use this in a prompt. And I'm going to let AI give me an example of this. So, which is the better marketing strategy for launching a refill store in a small town, hosting a grand opening event, or starting with a soft launch? Explain your reasoning briefly before the final answer. And here's what it gave me. So here's the response. Grand opening, why? So however, a soft launch, blah, 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 which being very familiar with this kind of topic about grand opening at the starting is soft launch, I absolutely agree. I would always say a soft launch. Anyways, final answer, soft launch. So, but it gave me the reasoning why it is suggesting that. So very helpful when you aren't sure that you're going to look at an answer and really understand it. If it just, said you do a soft launch, now I can understand why it's suggesting that. Okay, we're on 10 out of 12 and we're doing well here. So let's go on with point number 11. Start with a goal when you're stumped. If you don't know how to write a good prompt, you don't want to overthink it. You just want to tell AI what you want to achieve and ask for its help in shaping the request. So let's go back to this idea. I like that it did open house, so I'm just going to stay in here. And I'm not even going to change the prompt. I want to send an email to my customers about our upcoming open house, but I don't know how to write the prompt. Can you suggest 3 different ways I could ask you for help with this? So I'm telling it to tell me how I could ask this in the first place. Now, when I write this and with prompting, and I left current information in there, it's starting to see it as a conversation. So if you notice, each time I've been starting a new conversation because each one of these has been standalone, except for when I started building on these ones, right? Where I took the first one and I did one about Cachet Winery, and then I created another one, Suggest Five. Those are continuing conversations. But usually what I would do is start a new one whenever I'm talking about anything different, because otherwise it's pulling in information, it's remembering things. And sometimes that's good, sometimes it's not. Okay, so it's going to give me some ideas here. So again, I asked 3 different ways. So can tell me about a goal-oriented prompt. So it's starting to help me walk through this. So I can always tell it to tell me how to approach this. A really good way of doing that. So if you are ever in doubt about how to interact with AI to get what you need, just ask it to lead you through writing a prompt, help so that you can make it exactly what you want. Okay, and then finally, we're on 12, point 12 here. So you're going to be, again, you're going to get all of these. Just as a reminder, you have a document that you're going to get that's going to have all of these prompts on there, so you can you're not going to use them, but they're helpful for you to understand why and to base your prompts after them, to get the different principles off of them. So this one is just a what you wouldn't do kind of thing. What wouldn't you do? Let's go start here. And let's say I'm dealing with something legal here. Draft a California compliant at-will employment agreement. And mind you, you have to be really careful about legal stuff, right? But let's say I'm going to go ahead and do this and then have somebody legal look over this. But I at least want to get the agreement out. So I can say draft a California compliant at-will employment agreement for a full-time, fill in the role, full-time project manager. Come up with a company name at the newly starting Cachet Winery. Starting, let's say, October 2025, October 1st, 2025. Includes wage hour terms, paid time off, remote work expense, reimbursement, confidentiality, IP, which is intellectual property, invention, assignment, termination, and dispute resolution. So all the kind of terms. I could ask this, but I just want to show you what's going to be really important. I'm talking about something here that is very date specific, right? California labor regulations, anything that's guiding labor is going to be changing. This is what I would probably write instead. I would do the same thing with the same kind of company, right? But I would fill this in. I would put draft a 2025 California compliant at-will employment agreement for same blah, 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 blah. Flag any areas requiring company choices and note any 2025 updates that you relied on. So the problem is what I'm trying to say here in this last point is that AI can sometimes pull up older information. And if there is current stuff, you need to tell it that it should rely on what kind of information. So in this case, I know it's going to be changing at the beginning of the year. Maybe I know that there might even have been second half of the year changes. Whatever it is, I want it to tell me about those changes. And I could even go back and do a further check and say, tell me about any California employment changes that I need to be aware of, right? So there's different ways of checking that. But you drive if there is anything to do with data sensitive information. Okay. So those are our 12 points, and I'm going to have a few final follow-up points for you too. But before I get to that, I wanted to talk with you a little bit about getting AI to use your website, because it's fabulous when you can do this. So you're going to have, again, this is going to be the same document I'm sharing with you. This is, so you're going to get this. You're going to see pro tip getting AI to use your website. So AI won't automatically read your website just from a link. If browsing is off, you can, you can paste the way around it would be to paste the text. So I can go copy, for example, my website. I can take an image of it, upload it. But if browsing is available, so it actually goes and browses your website, I can use this phrase, read into my website, and it may pull the details, but results sometimes are partial. So it's hard to know, can it really read into my website? Because if it can, then sometimes I can say, well, check out the tone here, check out this article. So the more reliable way is to copy and paste, because then you know it can get all of that information. But you can also test whether AI tool is actually reading your website or if it's just guessing. Because if it can read your website, you can tell it to, again, look at different articles, check the tone. You can also have it do that with competitor websites. So you can see where this can be so helpful. So the trick to figure this out is you can actually give it a URL and then ask it something very specific that's found only on the page to see if it can read into it. So here is an example. You would go to your website and tell you something that's on that page to be specific. Can it read it? And then and again, if the tool that you're looking at using cannot, then I would copy that information and upload it. So I'm going to I'm going to go back to ChatGPT. And I'm going to use all three tools to demonstrate this. Whoops, I'm hitting the wrong thing. Mean to hit new chat there, my own fault. So I'm going to tell it to read into this website and tell me the names of the advisors listed in it. So this is the Sacramento Valley SBDC website. And let's see how it's doing. Excellent. It's giving me a great list of the people listed. And you asked for names. That's exactly what I provided. No fluff, just clarity. It's actually telling me you didn't want anything else, so I'm not giving you anything else. Want to dive deeper into individual profiles, sort by specialties. So I know that I can trust that these people are these are advisors. So now I can start asking questions in there. And let's test the other ones. We can do exactly the same thing. I'm going to go over to Gemini, which actually I have found Gemini to be really good about reading into websites. So, and I'm just going to point out the text I use. I put please read into this website. I just find that to be a more powerful way of having it know that you need to go into it. You need to be searching within it. And then I'm going to do one final place. Let's try over here again, back in Copilot. So I'm just comparing all three search engines to see how are they doing. Are they able to see the advisors? And there we go again. I got 3 advisors this time. That's not good. There's a whole lot more advisors. So why did it only pick up 3? This one looked right. I got my nice long list. This one only gave me 3, and let's see what Copilot did. Section which likely contains a full, but wasn't included in the retrieve dot. Okay. So this one didn't give me them at all. And this is my other backup here. I'm going to go into there and just give it the specific web page this time. Let's see if it works. Please read into this web page and tell me the names of the advisors listed into it. Because if it didn't do it for the whole site, and interestingly enough, that was, there we go. Now it did it. I gave it just the one page and it's doing the whole thing this time. And let's try that again with Gemini. So you see that this is a great tool for you as you do prompts and you want to start being able to reference things on your website. But I had to rework things. I had to point to the specific page. These ones were not able to read into the whole site. So you'll find this to be very hit or miss, but it's a really important tip for you. Okay, so I want to go back to my article here and finish this off with the last things. So again, you're going to get all of the 12 these best practices, and you're going to get examples of all those prompts that I covered, just as to get an idea. So final things to know is improving your collaboration. You want to always double check your facts. AI can still generate wrong information. So always verify anything as, that you're going to rely on, and check the sources. If it doesn't automatically give you the sources, ask it for its sources. Make sure they're up to date, etc. Upload your final version. Let's say you write a blog post using AI, and you go back and forth. And, like, for example, in writing this document, did I use AI? Absolutely. I can't tell you how many hours I spent on this document, though, because it was a back and forth, and I know what I want. So did I use AI to help me write this? Yes, but I still probably took about 3 hours just on this alone and getting it to what I want, plus the examples. So what I did when I finished was in my chat GPT, because that's the tool I'm using mostly, is I uploaded my final version to train it on what I want. And I said, here's my final version. This is what I'm using, and how, how it should look in the future. Save successful prompts. I mentioned, so having an AI, I mentioned having an AI prompt library so that you save things in the future. Oops, getting a little funky thing there. So, keep saving them. So after you're done, just remember to keep putting that back in. You start your prompt library, but it won't work if you don't keep building it and finding what works. And then iterate for your brand voice. And that means providing good examples. So, keep thinking about what your brand stands for. Saving little snippets. You write something, something that really matches your brand, you're going to want to show it and use it. So that should be it. So we just have a few minutes for questions. Let me go ahead and stop my share first so that I can see everybody again, because I hate not being able to see everybody. All right, and I can check out the chat this way. All right, so open for questions. I see some cute questions there. If we should not use A for non-public info, how do companies use it for coding? So, you absolutely can use it for coding. All I'm talking about is things like not putting in, like, if you have your customer social security numbers, you're not going to go put that information in. You're not going to put somebody's tax return in. You're not going to put in health information, of a patient or something like that, and you can mask things. So let's say I did want to run some of my financials, but I don't want, but there might be some sensitive information that I have in there. I might mask it, so it's not really clear of what it is, except for to me. Let's see. How do you save your work? So when you say save your work, I'm not sure what you mean. Typically, when I'm going to do something, then all I do is copy. There's on all of the tools, there's a copy button. So there's two answers of that. One is that if I get results of something, I can, there's typically a copy button at the bottom, and I just hit that and I put it into a document. So I can pull it over, put it into a document, and save it there. But if I have, especially a paid version, this is going to be, it's going to have better memory. It's going to hold everything. It will hold all of my results and everything like that. So I mentioned a prompt library, but also what I'm going to cover next week is ChatGPT, advanced ChatGPT, which will mean we're going to talk about projects. We're going to talk about how you customize it to get the things the way you want it. Like I said, projects and custom GPTs. And those kind of things are really great. Like projects is a really great way of organizing things in one place that I don't have to worry so much about finding things again. So it does keep a kind of a repository of things. So I can go back to just how I went back to those questions. and continue the conversation. I've had one conversation I've been having with ChatGPT since March, and I probably go in and keep checking in with it about every week. So I just go back to the prompt, back to the conversation and just keep going. So you can do that with it. But again, this is typically talking about a paid version. There's a visual chart comparing AI tools like ChatGPT versus Gemini versus Copilot and the best mediums to use each one for. You can ask AI for that, to give you a little chart. But that said, it keeps changing. In fact, I know we're going to run out of time, but I just want to show you my screen so that I can show you one interesting little thing here, for example. I don't like to talk too much about what the tools, about every little detail to use, because you could get overwhelmed with the tools. The more important thing is that you find something that you like and that you continue to use it. But they keep changing. So my answer to that is go back, if you didn't see session 1, watch that again. What is what are you using it for? Like, for example, if you are using the Google Suite, maybe you use Google Gemini because it will work together with the Google Suite. Microsoft, I have Microsoft, was it 365? That I'm part of that. I pay for that. So I already have access to Copilot. If you are paying for Microsoft 365, you have access to the paid version of Copilot. Really helpful. And then I pay for ChatGPT because I just really like it. And if you notice, I've got a lot of things I'm going to be covering next week over here. Copilot, by the way, like, for example, this is a newer feature that they just launched. I can ask it, I have it on quick response. It will give me basic for everyday conversation, 2, 3. I can tell it to think deeper. So there's different options. And there's also, so things like this change. The main thing is that all of these are really strong. So I wouldn't get hung up on, oh my God, should I use ChatGPT or, I would say find a few tools that you like and stick with them, a few really strong tools, because that way, when it changes, you can keep up to date with it. It's not going to be hard. So you mean personal, confidential, not company specific IP. I mean, anything that you wouldn't want to share, and I think that you asked before about coding, but creating code is normal, and talking about code is normal. It's not like you're exposing something, right? The code doesn't have some private information in it. So that's what I'm talking about, is any kind of information that would be like, this is a big deal for any kind of medical company. You can't just be posting people's information, because HIPAA will regulate against that. But my point is more, just be smart. If it's information that you would be sensitive, that you would feel, my gosh, this is out there, then just don't use it or mask it. Is there any way to delete the useless things like the back and forth that happens up until I get to the version I want to keep? Sometimes the chat starts green, then I go sideways before finishing strong. Well, I don't know that you're worried about keeping the back and forth. I think the question, it's not the back and forth. That's how you start learning, and it's not a bad thing, because it is that back and forth actually helps train your AI too, right? Till you get to that thing. And then you tell it at the end, this is what I want. And you might even ask, what would have been the most direct way to get to this final outcome? That's what I would focus on. Not worried about the back and forth, but how could you have shortened that and got to that directly right away, right? So just use that as the training. When you're doing that back and forth, again, think of that assistant, that person sitting there, put a picture up in front of your desk and say, yes, it's up to me to have that training, to keep providing that. Let's see. Anything else? I used GPT to build a handbook. When I asked it to combine all the sections, it was different in missing sections, paid version. What did I do wrong? I don't know. It was different in missing sections. It's hard to say, without having enough information. Like, for example, if I was going to build a handbook, again, this would be number one, where I would break it down into tasks. So I would think about, step one, step two, step three, because if it gets overwhelmed with something, it's not going to be do that very well. So it is, you said it is a paid version. What another thing that I would do is, once you got to all the sections you like, download it into a version, into like maybe a PDF or a Word doc, and then upload it again. Because sometimes as it's getting really further away from those prompts, it can start that some of the memory can start not being as strong for the early stuff. So one way of doing that, and one of my favorite techniques, which I showed, is save that as a document and upload it. That makes it always fresh. Anything that you have that you like, keep it as, save it into a document. And I would suggest going back and trying that. If I pay for a subscription, then pause, will it keep my history? What if I start paying again? That I don't know. And tools are different. I would expect that it would not, but I don't know. And this is a very dynamic thing. So I would ask each tool that you're looking at using, what will happen. And even then, it might not be the most reliable information. So I don't know the answer to that. That would be a little bit of research. Okay, I know we're at time, but I will go through and just answer these last, I think, few questions. Sometimes I would like to keep it as a doc. Yeah, I like keeping things too. Anytime you get anything you like, again, I even though on a paid version, I know I can go back. I can search a former, chat that we've had. I can go back. I keep everything in projects too. Again, if for you people who are thinking about organization, you are going to love next week. But I still like to keep, things downloaded too. So, what have you found to be the best place to store prompts that give good responses for repository and remembering? I saw you used a document for today. Can I store it somewhere in ChatGPT? I actually just use, to store prompts, I just suggest like an Excel doc or something like that. That would be the best way to go. So I would say I wouldn't try to have a full on, I wouldn't try to keep everything in ChatGPT again. And the other thing is that what happens if you want to start using other tools? So having some things outside of that, like I said, a simple spreadsheet can be really helpful for you. And if you do that, and I understand we're just after 7, so if anybody needs to leave, please feel free. This has been a great session. I do want to just ask, so I answer the remaining questions though. So, let me just look for, I had like, let's say, for example, for your prompt, library, and just ask, you can even ask AI to say, help me create a spreadsheet for my prompt library. And all it's going to say is, what is the prompt that you put? So you're going to have a field for the prompt. You're going to have, maybe something about the outcome, some notes that you take, whatever it's going to be, you're going to have some information just to keep track of it. I have to admit, I've gotten lazy about that myself, and partially because I'm using projects a lot, which help me keep everything organized better within ChatGPT already. So I have gotten lazy with it. But if you are using regular prompts regularly, certain prompts, it is a good idea to save them off somewhere. And again, if you're going to store it somewhere in ChatGPT, this is what projects are for. So we'll cover that next week. Projects and to some degree custom GPTs, but projects especially. Okay, every 6, but when combined, okay, it went side by, yeah. anyways, Jeffrey, if you're in the, I would suggest working with SBDC too if you're hitting problems. Sometimes, again, for anybody who has having a problem with your own specific business, we're actually here to help. So, you can work with the SBDC, but if you combine them all sections individually, so just a nice big list as it was perfect, and then ask it to come, so I mean cutting and pasting, for example, and then into your own document, uploading that again. It might have just been too much information overwhelm, which is what I would think. And some tools deal better with that. For example, Claude is really able to, which I did not cover, but it's another really, really good option, is really good for dealing with long documents. It's known for that more than some of the other ones. Okay, can we stay over time and carry on discussions? Well, we did. So, anyways, I think as long as I've covered all of those, is there anything else? And Joseph, are you there?
I am here.
All right.
It was
Looks like I
fun.
think we're pretty good. Is there anything else that I
Hmm.
might have missed?
Looks like we're all caught up on questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so great. I definitely want to give a huge thank you to the folks for being with us tonight, and looking forward to seeing you next week and the week after and the week after. Remember, folks, we're going to do a deep dive over the next 8 or so weeks. So thank you for being with us. I also want to give a huge thank you to Kathy for sharing her valuable insight and resources. You'll get a copy of the recording as well as the links to the documents in the follow-up. There will be a survey as soon as you exit the webinar. If you could please fill it out for us, we appreciate it. Kathy, would you like to say a few words before we sign off?
Yes, and thank you, because somebody put this in, and sorry, I have not been watching chat. I've just been watching the Q&A. I don't know the answer to the transcripts since Joseph's handling that, but the homework this week, thank you for somebody for mentioning that. Yes, there is a small homework that I would like to give you to do, really simple. And let me just do one quick share so I can, this one's really easy by comparison with the last one. Second. I'm hitting the wrong button. It's moving around on me. Okay. So your mission, and I hate to use the word homework, right? It's your mission. This is your business. It's not homework. It's not something terrible. This is something that should be about how you apply this to your business. So again, here is the thing from the first week was, tools. For the second week, all I'm going to ask you to do is start tracking your prompts. And so creating something like a prompt library, so that you can see what works and what doesn't. Like, I love that point that somebody made about having that long conversation, right? How did you finally get to what you want? Can you ask AI now, how could you have better asked provided a prompt to get to that final answer? So maybe this is something that you start learning from and save into your library. So again, a spreadsheet doc organized in some way you can easily scan it. So this would be a way like prompt what the purpose is. You might even have multiple tabs. So one might be for marketing, one might be, for emails, one might be for whatever it is, however you think about your business flow. Example output might be something that's in there, and notes. So whatever is going to be good, but especially I would say towards if you're newer to this, or if you don't have some other better way to organize this is going to be how you start learning what really works. And I would also suggest printing out those pages that I provided. So it's this one right here, which is again, just review this when you're putting in prompts. This will help you just kind of with a little checklist. Not everything is necessary all at once, but this can help you really refine your prompts much better. And then again, you're going to get this other document with the examples. So each one of these, this corresponds with these 12 best practices, so that you can say, well, what did I mean when I'm giving you those suggestions? And there we go. And that pro tip about using about how you access a website and making sure it works before you say, because what will happen is if you tell it to say, like, let's say you say, read into my website and tell me and use this tone, and it will still provide you something, and you don't know if it really read into your website. Or sometimes what AI will do is it'll see some other information on the internet and it'll pick that up. And it'll look like it was able to read into your website, but it wasn't. So that's why that little extra lesson about using that as a tool, because it's a powerful option for you, but you have to make sure it's working.
All right. And Kathy, if there's anything else you'd like to send over before I send that follow-up email, I'll make sure to include that as well so they have all of the information.
Okay, perfect.
Hmm.
Um, just those two, and actually, I will send you the mission for those of you who want to do that. But please, that will multiply your what you get out of this workshop.
Definitely. All
Okay,
right, folks. So we're going to go ahead and sign off. We're going to see you guys next week, hopefully. You will receive that email with the recording and the documents by end of day tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. That's going to come from our info@sacramentovalley.sbdc.org email. Thank you for being with us. And thank you, Kathy. We'll see
thanks
you guys next
everybody.
week.
Thank you, Joseph.
Have a good evening.
See you. Bye.